Hey everybody, Richard here with InvisaGig, and I'm pretty excited to show you the telemetry feature that has kind of been hidden in the InvisaGig, but it's a really powerful feature that if you look on my screen, you can see there's tons of really neat data that you can pull off of your InvisaGig right now. No extra cost to get this data, nothing crazy. Right? So if you look on mine, you can see I've got statuses, I've got bands that are active. As far as the carriers are concerned, the signal strength of the primary, how much data usage per SIM slot. I've got which carriers I've been using over time. This is actually a 90-day history, and you can store as long as you want, year plus. This is over the last 90 days, different times where things have changed. Unit was offline. You can see my signal strength on LTE, 5G, NSA, and SA, quality as well, my device temperature, lots and lots of metrics. You can see here that it is kind of endless in a way. And it's not just stuck to just this. It's kind of the mind's the limit, or you could even like chat GPT or something, and you can nail down to the last 5 minutes if you want with the way that I've got it set up. So this whole video is actually going to be a tutorial on how you can do this exact same thing on your system. What you'll need is the InvisaGig, of course. It'll have to have the update 1014. It can be done on 1012, but it's slightly different. We modified some things with the way the file is output for this data. And you're going to need a Linux server of some kind to follow this tutorial. You don't have to, but a Raspberry Pi, a Linux PC that you have locally, a cloud server, which is how I'm going to do it to show you today. Anything that's Linux based that has Debian Linux, you can word for word follow the tutorial that we're going to go through here today. You're also going to need well, you're not going to need to, but if you don't really have a lot of knowledge about all this stuff, obviously you're 100% going to copy paste. So, and let me point that out. You don't need a ton of knowledge about databases, Grafana, which is the system we're going to use for visualization. You don't need to know about Linux and Linux operating systems. The tutorial covers 100% of that. You can literally just follow the words, copy and paste, and be done. The only things you'll need to do outside of what we guide is figure out somehow to get access to a Linux operating system that you can use this on that is Debian based. For any variations, you can look up the command variations for Arch or Red Hat or any other distribution of Linux. This specific one, including the Raspberry Pi Raspbian. But Linux Debian is what we're using here, and it's 100% copy paste the entire way through. You don't even really have to make any really big decisions. So you don't need a bunch of knowledge to do just this, where you can see months and months of data off of your InvisaGig. Just follow the thing, and you too can have this, including this dashboard customization that I've made for me. I'm going to give this away to you. You just download the file, upload a file, and you're done. Okay. Also, optional item, Tailscale. Tailscale, it doesn't need to be used. I'm going to use Tailscale. What that is it allows you to remotely access the devices using a public IP that only you on your Tailnet have access to. So that's an optional thing. Also optional, tying back to knowledge on this stuff. If you do have a lot of knowledge about databases, SQL queries, Grafana specifically as well, then obviously you can play around and do a lot more detailed stuff. This tutorial is really focused on the person who doesn't know this stuff, doesn't want to learn this stuff, but does want to have access to this very 100% free feature of our InvisaGig telemetry so that you can track your data. To give an example, if you'll notice in the last 24 hours on my system, as soon as it wants to show it, there's an interesting thing that happened right about 4:34 a.m. this morning on AT&T. You'll see here I'm on AT&T. It's been on AT&T for the last 24 hours. The data usage on AT&T has just gone up ever so slightly over time. Obviously, I use this. My primary bands, though, and my aggregate bands, this is all LTE for me on this particular AT&T SIM. They did something weird. You'll see here, if I wasn't tracking this, I wouldn't know something happened. Potentially something changed on my tower. There could be any reason for this, but what's neat is I have this data, I'm tracking it, I can visualize it, and I can even say, all right, let's go from 4 a.m. to right now by highlighting over that in this Grafana dashboard. And then I can look at all the little fine details of what was going on. These are the primary bands that my InvisaGig modem was using on AT&T over this time frame. So again, AT&T, it stayed on AT&T over the entire time. But the bands went from consistently on band 14 as primary to band 2, back to 14, back to 2, to 66, to 14, to 2, 14, 2, 14, 2, 14, 2, 66. Even at some point it jumped to 30. So strange. And then it leveled out sometime around 10 o'clock this morning. It leveled out and stayed on band 30 as the primary the entire time, and then just had aggregates of 12 and 2, while the aggregates also flip-flop at the same time as all this was flip-flopping. Isn't that interesting? So you wouldn't know it unless you were able to track this stuff. Maybe it caused a problem, so now you've got somewhere to look to really nail down. You can also see device temperatures, all kinds of things. So what you'll need again, InvisaGig 1014 software, some form of a Linux operating system device that you can install what we're going to do on, and then follow the guide, copy paste, and that's it. Okay, optional, tail scale, and knowledge on this whole system. So let's dive in and see what we can do. First, the InvisaGig.com website has this article under news, collecting and viewing your InvisaGig telemetry data for free. Click on that. There's also an optional spot in the footer here, right there. But if we start at the top, it has a quick overview of what it'll do, what we need, the process in short and so forth. For this video, since I've kind of already gone over all this, we're going to jump straight to the steps after I SSH into my server. So I'm using a cloud-based server on DigitalOcean. It's costing me, for this example test server that I made, here's my public IP. If you had this IP and the server was still active when the video came out, you could SSH in. This is all publicly available. For this test, for this video, I've created this. This will be gone before the video is put out. But shows my public IP, it's all set up, and this is a fresh Debian install. So I'm going to open my console for it. Okay, and then I'm going to split my screen, or lose my screen, more accurately. Between that and the instructions for now. So let's see. Oh, so if you look on here, I've SSH'd in. You'll need to do this if you have a remote server, or if you're using just a Linux operating system with a desktop, you'll just need to open command line. But we're looking to do, this is all via command line, but you don't need to know anything about it again. You're just going to copy and paste. This is a fresh install, so I need to set up a password. I'll set up a default password. All right, and it's going to reload. And then mine automates that process. So now I'm SSH'd in or command line on my Linux Debian server. You need to be in the same place to follow this tutorial. You also need to have your InvisaGig connected to the same network as your server, as well as, of course, on the computer that you're doing these instructions on. So they all need to be on the same network. I'm going to use Tailscale to remotely do it. So I'm actually not physically connected to my InvisaGig. You will use, for remote connection, Tailscale as well, like me, or local connection if you're just going to connect on the same network. For local, you're going to use 192.168.225.1, the default IP address to access your InvisaGig. I'm going to use a different IP because it's on Tailscale and it's all remote. I'm also doing that remotely on my server so that everything that I'm doing is remote. You do yours locally. It's fine. Okay, so I'm SSH'd in. My InvisaGig is online. You can see here, sometimes you get this little warning if it's the first time. Just click on advanced or yes, thank you, accept risk and continue. And you can see here that my InvisaGig is active somewhere else. These IP addresses that you see, those are my Tailscale IPs. Those are private VPN-like. They basically are VPN. IPs. They're public, but they're private to me. They're encrypted. Only I can access them. Put in your InvisaGig password. So now I have my InvisaGig here. It's operating. It's ready to go. And I don't currently need to do anything to it. In fact, for this entire tutorial, you need to do nothing to your InvisaGig. What you're going to end up seeing, of course, is this. So this is actually it's called a JSON file. It's considered like a structured data file. And the InvisaGig will update this information. It doesn't put any information like your IMEI or anything in there. It's all just your basic information. It puts all this data about your device and its current connection in the last minute in this JSON file. And then you can query that JSON file every minute or less often, really. It's not really useful to do it more than every minute, but this file is updated every minute. And then what we're doing is we're going to build a system that takes this file, saves it in a database, and then you can view that data from that database in a graphical way using what's called a data visualizing service. So this is what we're actually getting from the device. This is why it's important that your InvisaGig is online, either locally through the device on 192.168.225.1, or, like me, over Tailscale on my IP address. It's the same either way, it's just slightly different variation on your IP address. Okay, so this we don't need. This is just what we're going to be dealing with, but off of our server, I'm SSH'd in, and we have our step-by-step thing that we're going to follow. All right, so literally copy and paste. There's a little button over here. If you don't have that or it's not seeming to work, you can just copy it all to this point here. Right click or just Control V, copy, or you can click this button here, copy. And then in your SSH terminal command line, usually just a right click should paste it. If not, right click and paste. Okay, so it depends on your system. They all tend to operate differently. Mine is right click, paste. All right, then once you do that, hit the enter return key, whatever it is on your system, and it will start to work on all of the stuff it needs to do. This first one is just installing all of the software and dependencies, which are just software that the other software needs, and drivers or whatever, if it was hardware based. But it's going to install all that. That's all this does. So this part of step one, or all of step one, is putting in all the stuff it needs to do this bit. So that's the first part. Second part, if you're not using Tailscale, then ignore the part right after step one. That's why it's not a part of step two. It's just kind of like, hey, if you're using Tailscale, like me, we're going to do that step next. If you're not using Tailscale, ignore this step. It's actually going to show, and we'll see it here in a minute, it's going to show at the bottom of the last line of what's happening on the terminal session that we've got right now. So I'm going to fast forward because this does take a few minutes, and we'll be right back to see that last part so we can move on to step two. All right, so you'll see here at the very end, it says important, run Tailscale up next to connect to your tail network. So for me, I am. If you are not using Tailscale, ignore. Tailscale up. If you are familiar with Tailscale, you'll know the next step is to take this, copy it, and then go into your browser, paste, and then this is how you log in to Tailscale to authorize this device. So this device in this case is my cloud server, and you do need to authorize that because it's a private VPN network, and we need to make sure that it is a secure, allowed device on the network. And you've probably done the exact same thing on your Tailscale. I'm sorry, on your InvisaGig if you've already put Tailscale there. So I'm going to cut and move to that next. Okay, you'll see here I approved my machine, and that has been a success. So now we're going to move on to step two. Again, copy paste. So this, you'll be prompted for some information in the middle of this one. You'll note here that it tells you about this. So we'll see that here in a second. But again, copy for me, paste, return. Okay, immediately, this doesn't take long. For the rest of this, there's not a long install process for all but 1 or 2 steps. But for here, it even says, enter the IP address of your InvisaGig device. So if you're using local, you'll use your 192.168.225.1 unless you changed it, or your tailscale IP. So we'll go back into here, and we'll notice my tailscale IP is right here in the header, or the URL line. Copy, right click, paste. That is my IP. And then it's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to make my password just ADMIN. There's 2 things here. You need to make sure that you use a secure password. I'm going to use a simple one. You need to use a secure one because this is the password for your database. So the Grafana visualization system needs to access that information. So that password will actually be the password to your database to access that information. But when we run Grafana for the first time, it'll take that password for you to first log in, and then it's going to ask you for a new password. You can re-enter the same password if you like, so that your Grafana graphical interface login has a same or different password as your database. To keep it simple, just use the same password, something that you can remember and write down and so forth. So you definitely want to do that. Again, I'm just going to type in ADMIN. It's going to ask you to move on. So yeah, make sure you also type that in properly, because if you don't, if you typoed it or whatever else, you will have problems at this point. So don't do that. Make sure you type in something that you know you typed in properly, and then it's going to move on. So password has been saved. It's actually saved into a little file in simple text, so you can look it up. But here is where it's done with that part. All right. So we're going to move on to the next step, step 3. And this is going to do what's called a Docker configuration. We're going to right click again, paste, and it's going to set up the Docker for us. And that was instantaneous. Step 4, this is files that collect the data for you. Copy, paste, enter, done. Step 5, create a collector script. Copy, paste, enter, done. All right. And then step 6. Step 5, by the way, is kind of the meat and potatoes of how the database is set up in a way. Step 6, configure the data source. So this is for the visualization dashboard called Grafana. We're going to configure our dashboard for that, or the data source, I'm sorry. Copy, paste, enter, done. Every single time one of these is done, you'll see right before it moves on, it says collector script created, Grafana data source configured. So there are things on there that show you that it actually done and didn't have an error. Hopefully you don't have any errors. Step 7, copy, right click, paste, enter. Now this is where it's actually going to build and start the services. So this is your second step where it is going to take a little bit of time. We're going to pause the video or fast forward it in any way to the end of this. So it will take a minute. We'll be right back. All right, so it's done. See here, we got the admin password changed successfully. That's just for Grafana from the one you inserted. It'll show here your Grafana URL. This is where your Grafana system is located. It's found its own IP address. So if you're on a local system, it'll probably be something that's related to your router, 192.168.1.68, whatever. Mine is on a cloud server, so it found its own IP address, and then it has a port number. So this is the web interface for Grafana. You can just copy and paste that. Copy, go into a browser tab, paste, and this is Grafana, the system, the service actually that is a data, the service that is a data visualization dashboard for taking information out of databases and then showing it to you in graphs and other things that you can create yourself. This is running on the server that we are SSH'd into over here. This is just a web interface for it. So pretty neat. And if you're following along, you just did this too. Isn't that cool? The username for now is admin. So we'll type that here, admin. And then the password that you set in step 2, I did ADMIN, admin, and hit enter. Now, It's going to tell you, don't use that password, use a different password or update the password or whatever. So you need to set the password to something that's secure for you. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to type in ADMIN, because that's what I want to do. This is all going to be deleted later. This is not for my personal use. The one you saw earlier, that's my personal use. That's fully secured on a different password, different everything. Okay. Click submit. And then we're in Grafana. It's going to have all kinds of great information. Grafana is a really neat system. I'm sure there are other systems just like it that are great. Some people may think are better, whatever. I really enjoyed Grafana. It's very simple to get information on. I'm by no means an expert. I'm by no means an expert on all this stuff, databases or anything else. I had to use a lot of research. I even used a little Claude AI to get this going. So I'm not even an expert at it, but for those who don't want to do anything crazy, just follow along and you'll be just fine and you'll be able to use this really cool system. Do a little research and tweak it if you want. If you are a database pro, a Docker, you're super experienced at Docker, a Grafana pro, or anything like that, feel absolutely free to tweak everything. You can look through my code and be like, oh, this is better to do it this way or whatever. That's fine. For you, you know what you're doing, have fun. And that's the best part. This is free and open. Use it however you want. The people who don't know what they're doing, don't want to know what they're doing, they just want to use the cool dashboard and it's free, especially if you host it locally instead of on a $6 a month server like I did, then just follow along. And here we are. We're in the dashboard section of the home. We can actually look at the menu by clicking up here. Okay, and this is going to be a part of it at different times. And then we see that we're just kind of on this random spot in the dashboard home. So I will go back to our steps. We did step 7 last. Now, this accessing Grafana, you already did that, okay? Importing dashboards. So this is the part where you get to have my dashboard for free. And you don't have to build it and spend hours and hours and hours figuring out how to do each of these different things. You'll see here, in order to get, let's say, the signal strength, I had to build a query on the data. So this is a database query on our telemetry data that we're storing into the database. Right now, as we're talking, or I'm talking to you really, the InvisaGig is feeding this new database data every minute right now. So I've got it set up to pull data every minute and push it into a database from the InvisaGig to the database. It's already doing it as I'm doing this, communicating with you, everything else. And we'll see how to make sure that it is doing that later. But in order to make this cool little graph, I had to, or you could if you'd like, create a query on the table, and then over on the right side, you can set up different settings, change things, change colors, change the names of things, whatever you want, all over here on the other side. That's not the point of this tutorial, but you can do that if you like. So this is what we're going to get to for free. Here, click here for Richard's all done for you custom dashboard just for you. So you can see it if you like here. Don't click on it really. Right click, save link as, and then download it. I've already got it, so I'm going to just replace it. Sure. All right, so importing the JSON file. We're done actually with the SSH section, so I'm just going to move the tutorial over to that side. All right, and then we're going to go into our Grafana dashboard. Here's what we're going to do. Click on the Grafana menu icon in the upper left-hand corner of the page. Then we're going to navigate to Dashboards. Click on that, and then up here, there's a little button that says New. Click on that, and then click on Import. And then we're going to upload our JSON file. I downloaded it. Find yours wherever you downloaded it, and then drop it right in there. You can rename yours if you like. I just named it IG-V12 New JSON Telemetry Dashboard. You can put it in a folder that you create within the system, and then a unique identifier, you don't really do anything with that. You can change it, but there's no point unless you know really what you're doing. just leave that alone. And then the telemetry data source, you have to actually choose that. So click here, and then you should only have one in yours. Click on that. It's the InvisaGig PostgRE SQL import. It's all the same here. In case you're not following the video, you're following the text, you're doing both. Now, you'll see here it says no data. And it'll say here, notice you may not see updated info on your dashboard for a few minutes. It could take some time. But in the meantime, do this. Click on any one of these little 3 buttons over here, and then click on Edit, and maybe run the query. Okay? Oh, that didn't work. We don't see anything. No problem. We're going to go back to our dashboard. We're going to exit edit mode, discard. You see there's nothing here. I changed the information down to the last 15 minutes. Because obviously we just got started, right? No data, no problem. Click on the menu, okay? And then we've got connections, administration, dashboards. We're actually connected to a database or a data source. So we're gonna go to connections, data sources. This is your data source. We're gonna click on it. I just click on the name here. And then down at the bottom, there's a button that says Save and Test. Click on that, and then this says Database Connection OK. Okay, great. So now we know that our database connection is okay. So if we go back to Menu, Dashboards, click on our new dashboard here, and it says no data. Well, maybe it's going to take a couple minutes. Maybe we need to troubleshoot. All right, so let's verify the data collection. I lied about the command line, so we'll move this back over here. This is where we can verify things. So I'm still on the command line, and we can check and just make sure there's collector logs. So I'm gonna copy all these again, all copy paste, right click, paste, enter. And you see here that it shows different entries, data collected. Carrier, AT&T, temp 34 degrees Celsius. And again, and again, and again, every minute. 11:49, 11:50, 11:51, right at 52, 11:53, 54, 55, 56, right? And it's actually collecting data. It did pull some kind of information. So, and if you see here, I've got an example. It should look something like that. And mine does. Yours might be T-Mobile, Verizon, whatever. Check the database records. We can copy, right click, paste, enter. And you'll see here I've got 10. So, all right, I know it's collecting. I know it's got 10. And I can even actually, if I wanted to real-time watch it, we can copy this, right click, paste, and then it'll show them all. And then every minute, as I'm talking, you may see one pop in. So right at, I guess it's noon time here, at 12:01, another one should pop up as it, you know, if you want to just keep watching it happen, we can do that. That's not a problem. If it doesn't, maybe it shows some kind of error, then we need to do some more troubleshooting. Generally speaking, it's probably some form of a typo. The password's wrong. The IP address is wrong. If you have any of those issues, reach out to us and we'll help you troubleshoot, no problem. Let's see, we should see 1 minute mark. I hate to just keep talking just so we can see this live, but I really would like to see that pop up while we're talking about it. And the next step is we can also check the service status, and we can stop the system. We can restart the services. We can view database records. All these are under simple informationals that we can see. And then, oh, there it is, 12:01. So that just popped up live on the screen. Pretty neat. To get out of that, Control-C. If it closes your console like it did mine, just log back in. It's not a big deal. All right, so we know that we've done all of that. If we wanted to troubleshoot further, there's other steps down here below. Follow those as you need. Again, if none of that helps, reach out to us. We'll help out. But if we go back to our dashboard, you'll see here that it does have stuff on the screen. So this is our new dashboard. It just took a few minutes. If you see here, I've got how many was it? 11 minutes worth of data points loaded. So now, if you followed along, you have my dashboard for free, but just by doing some copying and pasting some very little bits of information. If you had issues following along, showing any of these things, doing any of these steps, reach out to us, let us know where it broke down. Maybe we didn't communicate something properly. But in general, you should be able to just copy paste all along, as long as you have the prerequisites, which is software 1014 on your InvisaGig, some Linux system that you have direct access to, and then a network connection between the InvisaGig, the Linux system, and the PC that you're setting up on, whether you SSH in or you are directly on, like if it's a Linux PC with a desktop like Linux Mint or something like that. We recommend Debian, of course, because that's how we set it up. And then beyond that is just copying and pasting exactly how it is on the thing. You should have just fine. So now you're collecting data on yours, and eventually, over time, you too can have months worth of data that you can look over for your InvisaGig. And if you want to get crazy, make your own dashboards and do some neat stuff. This has been Richard with InvisaGig, helping you get more out of your InvisaGig for free. Maybe if you don't want to do all this, maybe we'll come up with a service to do this for you for a couple of dollars a month or something. You know, we'll see. But otherwise, enjoy your InvisaGig. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Take care.